Yeah, a few years ago. I wish I had a sleigh like that. Jordan?
Council?
I get this whole side to myself.
You do.
Put a couple chairs there, one feet on the other.
It's gonna be one-sided conversation.
That's alright. I'm used to that.
Let's go back to Zoom.
Have a nap.
Huh?
Have a nap.
Have a nap, wake me up when the good stuff starts.
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready.
Everyone ready? Okay. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. First of all, we are located in Treaty 6 territory, and the homeland of the Métis. We pay respect to the First Nations and Native ancestors of this place, and we confirm our relationship with one another. Okay, first of all, we'll move to the adoption of the agenda.
Move.
There's a couple items to add
There's a
first,
couple
right?
related items.
Deputy Mayor, just one item we'd like to add, 9.6, which is second step of the discretionary use permit for, I think it's for Nikki Solutions. Robbie, confirm that?
Yeah, that is correct. What place for discretionary use for unique names?
Or you need else, okay?
I'll make the motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Okay, we'll move to the minutes of the 3.1, of the special meeting, April 25th.
I'll move to approve April 25th special meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Seconder, any questions on the minutes? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. The regular meeting of April 26th.
I move to approve the regular meeting minutes for April 26, 2022 as presented.
Okay, any seconder to the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Vedri. Any questions arising? If not, call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to number 4, delegations and public hearings. We have a delegation here from Pride, I guess, the Launch Regional Pride Committee, and you're here too.
Yeah.
Okay, we've received some information in terms of what you're presenting, but if you've got 5 minutes and you'd like to stand up and speak to us, you're certainly welcome to do that.
Yes, I was voluntold to do that by the committee. I'm assuming I
Yeah.
signed it.
Okay.
Alright. I'd first like to thank all of you and the town of Orange for all the generosity you showed the regional pride through these last couple of years. We sent you this, I believe, and I'm just basically going off of that. So some of the things we're going to use the money towards is the events that are happening from June 1st all the way to the 26th. Of course, it's not the whole month, but it is the second last week of the month. And what we wanted to request is if the weather gets really, really horrible during the Pride Parade, we're asking if we could use the Uniplex curling rink. I realize there's a $300 deposit, but that's if the weather doesn't agree with the parade. I don't know if I'm supposed to get responses.
Typically how most delegations would work is that you go through the entire presentation and we discuss all the items later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. I think, what else was there? I'm just gonna, 2 seconds. So some of the planned events we are having is the amateur drag night the RuPaul viewing at the lands. That is going to be a family-friendly evening, and then we have the Pints and Prides at Costa's. We are going to have the CrossFit Pride at the JR and the Collective Drag Show at the lands. And then the Pride Parade is on June 26th, and we're requesting for the La Ronge Avenue to be either one lane shut down. I think they did that last year. And of course, all of you guys are invited. Everybody's invited. That's the thing with Pride. And I think that was it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So primarily, what you're requesting is the use of the park for
Rising of the flag.
for the gathering, the closure of the street or part of for the parade, and that we authorize the mayor to sign the declaration, and then we raise the flag.
Yes.
So those are the requests that you have. And the other request is possibly the use of the curling rink, if inclement weather.
Yes.
Okay.
That we will know the day before.
Okay.
So it is on the 26th of June. So we'll know better on the 25th of
Yeah.
June.
Okay, any comments, concerns about the request, or, the rate, would that be an issue at all? That would,
It goes outside of how we would typically take a rental. We don't have anything else booked in the curling arena on that date. If we were waiving fees, for example, then we wouldn't necessarily have to go through the same process of renting the facility. So if we were approving to waive the fees, then we could make that last minute change and book it out for them the day before.
Was the request removal of the fees? Or would you guys be willing to pay the fee for the?
I think we'd be willing to pay the fee.
And so the deposit basically is just to hold, and then if they don't use the arena, then it would be a waiver of that 300 and then return, and that's basically what we're authorizing, is that if it's not used, we'll return the deposit. Is that what the hold up from the operation side is?
Just from administration's perspective, if you approve that the use of this as a backup space, what you would essentially be doing is asking us to hold the space so that we wouldn't book it out to another group who is interested in paying. And then if they don't need it, we won't collect a rental fee and we would return the deposit.
So the only thing that we're really risking is the potential full rental if someone was looking at the same
so,
thing.
Correct.
so in other words, there wouldn't be any money required. It would just basically, we're aware of the possibility of it being used, and if something comes up, I guess it could be dealt with at that time, or maybe if somebody else particularly wants that date, then they maybe have to put a deposit at that point. Is that how you handle that? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve all the requests from the Pride Committee.
I'll second that.
Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
And sorry, before, I know that you called it already, are you okay? Is the floor okay with me asking a question before we go to the question?
What?
Yeah.
So I know that there was the council to adopt the formal proclamation attached. I'm just wondering, is your motion to the formal request in writing or to what we had heard tonight? Because I know that you didn't mention the proclamation
Everything that's
There is
listed
a
in the
formal-
presentation.
in the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's one that's formally presented to us, the proclamation there, so.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we were all talking
Yeah.
about the same thing, that it wasn't just what was verbally.
Yes.
Okay.
So the motion would allow the mayor to sign the proclamation. as part of the
Correct.
motion.
Yeah, everything that's listed in this letter here.
Everything is requested. Okay. Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay. Motion is carried.
Awesome.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Can I go?
You have to stay for the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Instant revoking if you leave. Yeah. It's all good.
It's my bedtime.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks. See you.
Thank you.
We'll move to 6.1, we have the Midlands and Waterways AGM minutes from April 28th. And we also have a regular meeting at April 28th, following the annual meeting, so.
Who takes the minutes for those meetings?
It's the chairperson, Jill Gracie. I have additional information if anyone needs it. I think the whole process around those minutes is that they only want to share certain things, but I guess if council wanted to know more specifics, those could be shared in camera.
I have a little bit of that same concern that there's really not much in that lends us to understanding exactly what's going on at that table. It would be nice maybe in the future to have a little bit more information, a little bit of more information on the motions and just maybe a little bit more history. I just found it quite vague. So
Yeah, if there was other things, like it is a publicly funded agency, so no different than anything we would discuss
No,
here.
in their discussion was it's the same board of directors to continue on into the coming fiscal year. There was discussion around heating and the basement of the facility. I can send an email out with those details tomorrow afternoon.
There's a couple deficiencies as well that they're taking care of.
And then was there discussion around a refreshed agreement? Because that was something that was brought up a while ago.
I don't think that's been finalized yet to bring forward to council, but once it's finalized, it will definitely come to council.
That's in the works, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll make sure it's not forgotten about.
Before we get into a situation next year again.
Yeah, the same situation next year.
Okay. Move to receive and file, I guess.
I'll second that.
okay, all those in favor of the motion? Okay, motion carried.
Aye.
Okay, we'll go to item 7, which is committee as a whole. Motion to go into committee as a whole.
So move.
Seconder, Jordan, all in favor? Okay,
Aye.
motion, all those in favor? Okay,
Aye.
okay, motion carried. Okay, 7.2, the reconciliation flag. I think we had some correspondence that went out, and I think that most people went with option 1.
Yeah, so we've started the process. We've got the flag. It's over there in the corner. The purpose of the discussion this evening was to see what council wanted to do in terms of either raising it in conjunction with an event or doing a PR event, or how and when you wanted to see the flag go up, or just simply raise the flag and take a picture and send it to the press, that kind of thing. So we're just looking for some feedback on how you'd like to proceed with the ceremonial part of it.
You know, I feel that, you know, it's a significant statement we're making, and it's a significant event that we're representing, and I think there should be some formal ceremony or some event that we have, you know, invited guests and do it in a formal way. That's what I'd like to see. Any comments? Go ahead, Ray.
Do we know if the band's doing a celebration this year, an event this year?
Health is, like, do you mean for June 21st?
Yeah.
Yeah, their health department is, and I know that Northern Lights is going to be present and do a few things. I don't know if Waupun is. Usually they also join. Usually. That might be the day. I don't know. Well, actually, you know what? It probably can't be the date. There's no way everything will be done by then. So.
Is there a certain
So maybe
time?
get September or a shirt day to do the official, I guess, presentation of it. Like, it can be done when it's done.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe select like orange shirt day at the end of September.
Councilor McPhail?
We're looking at the from the general consensus at the flagpole here, correct?
The one in front of the building,
Yeah. I would say that National Indigenous Peoples Day on June 21st would probably be a good day to do that. I think it's soon enough. I wouldn't want to see it pushed too late into the year. if we're ready to move forward in reconciliation, I have no problem with that happening on June 21st.
And the intent is to fly it year round, right?
Yes.
And it might
But
be-
will the work be done by then? I guess is the question.
We have the flag and the pole's already in place. It would just be a matter of changing the flag that's on the pole. The only work that would be really entailed would be the upgrades to the side of the building, which could happen at any given point, right?
Okay,
So
well, I would be in support of having it happen June 21st, so, we need to ensure that it happens, right? So what do we need to do to ensure that?
I would support June 21st as a good possible date to do that.
Do you need a
It's
formal motion?
It's
No,
significant.
just direction is good, and like in committee, what we're looking at is if it's 21st is a good day, we can start reaching out to our partners and to some of the stakeholders and try and put together some sort of function with the ceremony.
June 21st, yeah. Yeah, we have
Connor,
council
has a question?
meeting
no, we don't.
Yeah,
I just wanted to mention that the Kikinak Friendship Center has rented the Mellingham Uniplex to celebrate National Aboriginal Day on the 21st. And we can work to coordinate so that it's not overlapping with any of their events based on the proximity of where you'd be raising the flag and hosting that celebration next door.
You know,
That would be
we
great.
may even take a little recess from there, and people that wanna participate
Could
in the
we,
ceremony,
could we put it out to the community, the date and the time that we'd be putting it up for community members who'd like to join and?
Well, for sure, we would do the full advertising, and we'll try to come up with something, whether it's a partnership with events already happening in the area here, as it sounds like there are, or whether we build off of that and do like a free barbecue at a ceremony and a quick
Evening,
kind of celebration.
evening celebration kind of thing.
We'll make sure everyone's available and we'll kind of work with everyone's schedule, so we'll just take that direction and make plans accordingly. We'll keep council up to date.
Sounds fun to me.
Motion to rise and report.
Second.
all those in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll go to bylaws. We have 3.1. Request for decision on bylaws 659, 2022. To be amending zoning bylaw 572/2016.
This is the trailer part one. I'll make the motion to follow administrative recommendation A to give the first reading to bylaw 659/2022.
I'll second.
Sorry, do I have to say known as the zoning bylaw? I know that we've
The
previously.
number is sufficient.
Okay. Any discussion, any further discussion on that? Okay. Call the question, all those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, we have into section 9, the business. Move to the financial reporting.
I'll make a motion to receive and file the financial reports as presented.
That's items 1 to 4,
Correct.
I'll second.
correct? Any questions anybody had out of any of the reporting? Okay, if not,
None for me.
I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, request for a decision on the Northern Capital Grant Program. There's only one thing that I noticed on that, and it says loader with the snow blower. It's probably just a snow blower that attaches to a loader for $150,000.
Yeah, that's the, go ahead.
Yeah. But it says loader in there with a snow blower, and I said we better clarify that, and make sure it's just a snow blower.
With mounted snow
Yeah.
blower.
Yeah.
It's the tender we have out right now for the attachment to the loader, yeah.
No, but it sounds, the way it's worded, it sounds like you got the loader and all
Fair
this,
enough.
and that's
Yeah.
pretty good deal.
Do you want me just to move the recommendation? Is that fine, or do you want me to?
Yeah, and
Okay.
administratively, we'll just clarify.
I just said that just so you knew I read through that.
I know,
Right.
You're moving?
I'll move the recommendation.
I'll second.
Okay, that's it. Okay. Any further questions? Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion is carried.
And just on a related matter for that one, we will have the auditor presenting the financial statements for council's questions and approval
Sounds-
next meeting.
It sounds like it's been there for a while and hasn't been used. That's- Glad we found it.
The money, yes. I'm glad we're using it.
Does that include the declaration from council?
Yeah, it's the whole recommendation.
Okay.
Perfect. Thanks, Trevor, for your good work on that. Appreciate that. Okay, the document, oh, this is just on the private capital. Okay, request decision on discretionary use of red canvas. There's a floor plan, some regulations here.
We'll move to initiate the discretionary use
Any
application.
more comments you want to add, Robbie, other than what's presented to us? No?
No, nothing much more to add this time.
Any questions from the floor?
I do have one, and it might be a bit of a broken record because I know that we have had some discussions on it, but I know that the process to apply is you have to have the municipalities agree to a location or that they would want to have an additional store, and that has to come from the individual store. There can't be a request for proposal put forward to additional cannabis outlets. There can't be, or can there be those processes? Because to me, it's, you have to almost negotiate one-on-one with the business as they come to you. And I know that we have had other businesses that have asked council previously if we would consider an additional store, if the market could handle an additional store, and we said that those decisions have to be made by the individual business owner before coming to a council. And I'm just wondering, is this the regulatory act that is telling us that we have to go through this process, or can we look at something different?
As far as the province is concerned, first they had to make sure that the municipality would allow it. Then the province would give them the okay, then it comes back to us to allow that discretionary use application.
Those steps would be regulated by liquor and gaming,
Yeah.
and they, and what we had, the initial meeting was the first step, and then basically, do you have a flavor for another cannabis business in town? And so we said, yeah, that's part of the process, we'll allow you to pursue it, and now we're in the second phase, I guess, and there's lots of community consultation that still happen, it still has, there's still some roadblocks in terms of, from my understanding, but there's an address that's posted, and I'm not sure if there's.
Yeah, just to the question, I think, the intent is that if any business started the process with us, we would have followed the same process. So, if someone else came forward, we come to council for the same, are you willing to consider this or not? In terms of recruiting or promoting that we're open for business, we haven't been doing anything specific to that end, but I think that anyone who's knocked on our door, certainly since I've been here, whether it be for cannabis or commercial retail chains or other, we've told them we're open for business and we'll help them go through the process as fast as we can.
You've made the motion, and it's seconded.
I'll second.
Okay.
Any further questions? If not, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion.
I absolutely opposed. We do not need another cannabis store in Orange due to the population density that cannot support another cannabis store or expose our youth to the dangers of cannabis.
Okay. Duly noted, unfortunately we can't have a recorded vote, it wasn't requested before the motion, so, but thanks for that. Okay, move on to 9.4, demolition permit for 120 Hastings Street. And I guess there's a little bit of history with that in terms of the request was made a few years back, and I guess some conditions were not fulfilled, so let's see if somebody that's going to report on that.
Yeah, the fire chief speak to this issue.
Yeah, so just for the fire department, we have concerns with regards to this property. It is abandoned, it's derelict, it's falling apart on the backside. There's been cases where people have been breaking in, and we just wanna make sure that this building doesn't go up in flames, right? That would be a danger to our firefighters, and also it helps tidy up the area. The owner is still willing to take it down on his own accord, and he has been making some tax payments on this property because it is through tax enforcement. So, and I think it will be made clear to him that if when he tears it down, he's not to redevelop this property until all taxes are paid for. So
That's the building with no siding on it, right?
There's pictures on the.
yeah, there should be pictures in the report.
I was just wondering, is it something the fire department might be interested in using as a training thing, being as there's no shingle and siding on it?
You mean to
Like
do a
to do
live fire?
to do a
exercise?
controlled burn or some sort?
Because it's in municipal boundaries, there are clean air acts that we have to adhere to, so unfortunately we couldn't do anything.
With it, maybe it's not all clean wood, but I thought it was fairly clean.
Yeah, there's different, so we would also need hydrants access as well for those, and that would kind of cause a little bit of chaos on that one corner, because the nearest hydrant is down by marker 47.
I also do see some power and telecommunications infrastructure fairly close by.
Yeah,
No, just a question if you could use it for some sort of training thing.
yeah, that'd be nice. The roof is starting to kind of come down, so I don't know how structurally sound that building is.
It might not be safe for your
Yeah.
people, I'm not sure, but
I get administration's perspective on this item is that like typically if a property was in tax enforcement, we wouldn't recommend allowing it because the value of the property might be impacted, but in this case, removing a structure that anyone who took ownership of would need to remove, by removing it themselves, they're actually probably adding value for us if we end up taking it over, so we'd recommend allowing this to occur for those reasons.
I'll make a motion to move the recommendation.
So if there was a previous motion, do we have to rescind that first? This previous motion in 2020 by the previous council was that that could not be demolished until the tax arrears were cleaned up.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt to tag that to the motion, we certainly would clean it up.
So do we have a number for that motion? Can we rescind that?
You can rescind that motion, yeah.
So
If you wanna add that to the recommendation, that we also rescind the motion, directing that it not occur until the taxes are paid.
We
We would just look up the number administratively after.
Yeah, we could make that a motion to rescind the previous motion, and then. Furthermore, this is the action we're gonna allow at this time.
You're
And
comfortable
you
with me
wanna
doing that?
follow the same points about taxation and everything else?
With that?
Like, do you wanna follow the same points about the taxation that was decided 2 years ago too? That the arrears be paid?
Yes.
We would.
Mhm.
They would still, the first part of it, the
It would rescind the
demolition permit,
entire first
the
motion.
demolition
that
permit and the deposit would have to be done. However, the outstanding taxes would be waived at this point.
the motion would be to rescind the previous motion and that allow the property owner to apply for a demolition permit.
Yeah.
It'd be required to follow the same processes for a demolition permit.
Okay.
The person is gonna have to pay the
Yeah.
taxes before
You're-
they can build on it.
Correct, that's a development permit, so that would be approved separately, right?
I totally agree, it's more value to us if we do end up, going full foreclosure, that we've got more value in the raw land than we do with a building that's got no value to it.
So do you need me to put two motions forward?
If you just wanna friendly amendment to that original motion, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll do that.
okay, seconder,
I'll second.
Mr. Henry,
Robbie has his hand up, I do see.
any more questions?
See Robbie has his hand up.
Okay,
I was just gonna say, the previous resolution number is 2020-275, is the previous motion that was made. But that's the one you'd have to repeal.
Go with that.
Thank you, Robbie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robbie.
Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, number 5 would be request for a decision on camping in the parks, and that's what we were discussing, I guess, at the last meeting. Has there been any correspondence with some of the agencies, any feedback in regards to, maybe just give a report on that?
Yeah, let the manager of community services speak to this report.
So we received direction to investigate some options for relocating the group that's adjacent to Reese Park to another location in the town. We've consulted with Scattered Sites, Pickanack Friendship Center, and the Tri-Community Homeless Shelter Incorporated group to review the options that we've presented you today. We've compiled 3 site options with varying levels of amenities that could be set up for the individuals at a new location. It's important to note that the 3 options we presented describe some type of action and varying levels of amenities that could be considered. We've not included an option that would describe no action taken. However, we understand that that does remain a viable solution. Looking for feedback on the recommendation that we've made, as well as the alternative options that we've presented.
So which site in your view would be the most user-friendly, I guess, or that we don't have to do a lot of work? I know there's a couple sites that get wet and they get, it wouldn't really be a good place to be if we got a few days of rain.
Right. The general consensus between the 3 groups that we've consulted with was that Reese Park was the most viable solution for a number of reasons. The primary reason being that it is closest to where that group has decided to be. They've decided to be where they are for a reason, because they're close to those amenities that they value, and choosing to relocate them further from those amenities could be an ongoing challenge, and so Reese Park is generally considered the best option for them at this point.
I disagree with that. I don't think that park is the place to allow them to stay. That's where they are right now already. I think a much better area would be behind the post office, between the post office and the hospital, because it's a little bit farther out of the public eye. Yeah, maybe it's not quite as nice of a piece of property, but they've been using that for 30 years, and it's been fine for 30 years up until now. To take over one of our public parks, to make it for that, especially on a temporary basis. I understand there's other initiatives in the works. So this is going to be temporary, and then we're looking at spending $24,000 to put a temporary homeless shelter in a park. I don't know that that's the perfect answer. I think it should be behind the post office, if anything. A little bit more out of the public eye, and a little bit farther away from residential area. Then we're not losing a park on the waterfront, and I just think it would be much better a little bit further away. And it's not like it's a far distance for them to walk to the services that are needed. It's still very close proximity. So,
Councillor Perry?
I do understand Councillor Clausen's idea behind this. The one thing I don't agree with is taking it out of the public eye, because then that's saying that the public wants to hide what's visible within the community. We have a homeless issue within our community. I do think too, if we set them up somewhere else and spend the money there, they will go back down there anyways, so it would be a waste of money setting it up anywhere else. Because they probably wouldn't utilize that spot, they'd take their tents and they would go right back down there. And it is near their food and where they, do get their medication for the day.
So is the area behind the post office. And then at least there's been reports of public indecency and all sorts of different things happening down there, which are not acceptable for the resident children in that area to be watching.
Okay, Councillor Wu?
Okay, thank you. So I guess I have a question, but first I'll share some statements around that. So this is the first year where I've actually seen Tent City expand out from behind the clinic. Number two, I don't think, Reese Park is the right place. Number three, traditionally, I do have to agree with Councillor Clausen, there have been small encampments, sort of like between the cemetery, the hospital, and the post office. And then, I do have a couple questions for our chief, administrator and for, anyone else who's involved in this discussion, our community services manager. Number one, were the businesses in the area and the residents in that area consulted? And number two, were the users of our tent city consulted and asked?
Yeah, so, no, the businesses were not consulted. What we're hearing from the residents in the area is that the current site does not satisfy their own needs, and the individuals working at scattered sites did consult with the group that's currently adjacent Reese Park in the tents, and they would be happy moving over to Reese Park or staying exactly where they are today. They did not, they weren't interested in relocating to the other locations that we presented. And again, I believe that would go back to just the proximity to the services that they value. It is likely the primary reason why they would want to either stay where they are or be located across the street at Reese Park.
For the other location, proximity really can't be an argument, though. It's a 3-minute walk from the other location. It's not a solid argument.
Yeah, like from my perspective, some of the things that we looked at were, there's the presence of fires. Do we want them in a forest? That might cause an issue at some point. The location we looked at in behind the post office there, we would probably have to drop the porta potty and the garbage bins on the outskirts of that area because you can't get them in for servicing. So you would see that regardless on the side of the road. And then for the reasons that have been discussed. So, and our thought was, if we invest in a park, that those might not be throwaway costs. If when we have a permanent solution, now we have a day park where people can go picnic, have a, maybe grill something over a fire, and we could do it. It wouldn't necessarily just be, now understanding that the intent wasn't to hide them per se, but there's probably some desire for a degree of privacy, both from the residents and from the people that are using the park's perspective. But that, obviously the trees would provide privacy, but I don't really want to allow them to have fires in the forest either. So there's a lot of issues at play.
Councillor Bennett?
Yeah, and I don't get, I completely understand, like with the indecency and that, and I know if I lived there and that kind of stuff was going on, I wouldn't appreciate it, so I'm hoping that the toilets being put there encourages them to use the toilet. Also, when you have nothing and somebody comes up to you and says, hey, we want you to move and we're going to do this and that, it doesn't matter to them, right? They will end up back down there because that's where their home is. They got water there. They've been hunting back in here. They set snares for rabbits and stuff like that, and that's how they survive.
One option we could look at is like obviously it'd have to be a permitted use, and so we could have a limited time permit if nothing, if no issues arise, possibly if some issues arise, and within the next couple of months, then basically then we have grounds to say, okay, now we need to look at an alternate location because there's reasons for it. But the other thing is if we're going to allow something like that, we have to make sure that there's bathroom facilities, so like a porta potty would have to be placed in areas so that
Dumpster.
It's just for proper use, like it's for health reasons, and we don't for privacy and those kinds of reasons we need to have something for them.
Yeah, I appreciate that would be the case, and that's where there's a portion of the cost that would be in place regardless, because or at least the direction from council was to provide a porta potty and some waste management assistance wherever it would be located. So there's that issue, and of course, if they're going to keep going back there, the public aren't gonna use that as a park, so we're losing the park kind of regardless if that's the case. And so, yeah, that's just what we're hearing, but we're just trying to help you with your, what direction you'd like to take.
If we set them up in that park with a fence and porta potty and garbage and everything else and tell them, yeah, you can be here, it's just gonna grow, it's gonna attract more, and we're never gonna get rid of it down there, ever. It'll be a permanent fixture in the town of LaRange.
And that's my reason for saying maybe it should be permitted and some conditions on the permit put in there and.
Do you think they care about a permit, Joe? I don't think so.
Well,
They're doing it now, and a permit's not gonna make a lick of difference. If you set it up in that area, it will never leave, and it'll just grow.
probably right.
Hi, so I just wanted to say, I can't raise my hand on my settings for some reason, but, like, it is a reality for some people. It is something that needs to be figured out, not just by us, but I sit here and I wonder, it's a rhetorical question. So what I'm hearing many people suggest is that it's okay, so here's my question. So would it be okay if I went and set up a tent in a park downtown, wherever I wanted, and just lived there? Would that be okay? Because that's what it sounds like, that it's okay. And I understand the plight that some of the people that have taken residency in that area are under. I understand that, but I think that we need to make a concerted effort. Maybe we just need to meet with them. Maybe we all go down there one evening at a specific time and say, you know what, this is a public park. This is not allowed in a public park. Well, I guess we don't even have a bylaw. And we just have a serious conversation about having them relocate. Because when it comes to enhancing our downtown core, attracting tourism, I don't know, a tent city might attract a certain type of tourist, but it's not what we want. It's not what I want. I actually enjoy going down by that little edge there by the lake, and I have lunch there sometimes. And I don't know if I want to be looking at a tent city while I'm doing that. I want to be enjoying the lake. And yes, I understand there's a need for people to have a physical space to live on if they don't have housing, but I don't believe that that's the right space.
Okay, Councilor Hyder.
Yeah, and I'm like you, Vivian, I like to go there and I do like to have lunch, and I haven't lately. I haven't been down there because of Tent City, but I do have other parks within the community that I could go to. I go down the street and there's the LaRange Park just right down there, and I can go over to Nunn Street and there's a park there, and I can, do things from there. We have so much to be grateful for, and we're lucky that we have parks and that to go to, and these people need a space to stay. And I find it hard that we're sitting here discussing what are we going to do with these people.
I'm gonna go around the table just for a consensus. And the first question will be, do we allow them to stay, or do we look at an alternate spot? We're not gonna say which alternate spot, we'll just say yes or no.
They're currently at Reese or
And then the second go around, if it's not allowing that, then we will go, which is everybody's spot that we agree on, so we can get some direction to administration. Okay, so in or out of the park, or in, or on the other side?
In.
Leave them in?
Different location.
I want to be clear that they're not in Reese Park right now, that they are
Kind of to the
adjacent
side.
to Reese
They're
Park.
right beside it.
So the recommendation is
behind the clinic.
yes,
So it's not technically in the park?
it's technically not in the park.
It's municipal reserve. I mean, it's part of theirs, really, whether that's part of the park or not.
I don't want it in the park.
Viviana?
Not in the park.
Jordan?
I have a similar thread to what I've heard Councillor Clausen and Councillor Riz mention, but mine's more from a different standpoint. I understand that the area that we've kind of recommended, or that has been brought to us as a recommendation for Reese Park, is where most likely currently situated and the easiest place to access the services. The thing that I'm struggling with is anyone that's been to Reese Park, as you get closer to the edge, there's a lot more rocky shores, which does pose a bit of a security threat unless we were willing to fence off the shoring areas to make sure that we weren't having any kind of people falling into lakes or any issues along that side of the park. Obviously would make it a little more safe, but once again, that would be a high level of infrastructure cost to do that for a temporary solution. And when people go to a park, they want to see the lake, not a chain link fence or anything else of the sort. So I don't think that Reese Park is, in my opinion, the best location for this. The second question is mainly directed towards administration. I know that I believe it's the third item on our list here, which was the treed area between the hospital and the post office. The last time that I looked in the zoning bylaw map, I believe that this was identified as urban reserve, which we've basically deemed to the best suitability of the Lac La Ronge Indian Band to decide on how that land be used, as long as it falls within the town's zoning bylaws, and I believe it's currently of a C1 district. So for me, I don't see the treed area between the hospital and post office as something that we could bring forward as a recommendation at this point, because I don't believe we have the authority to use that land.
I believe
thought
it's
we
under
asked that
reserve.
last week and it was not.
It was not?
Well, that's what I thought I heard.
It's out of the reserve.
Is it?
So the reserve is where Lyle has his cursor here.
Right.
We would be recommending where right above it 13, where the trees start essentially. So
that's
Cross sides of the
the small
cemetery.
house on the side of the urban reserve there, on kind of on that inner shape, and then the first lot across the laneway is urban reserve as well, right? Like currently beside what would be the dental clinic marker 47 on the inside corner or outside corner of Catan, right?
To the right, yeah.
That one there, that one would also be urban reserve.
I think you're right, Jordan.
And that's why I'm saying I know it was an L shape, and I don't know if it was an L shape behind the post office or an L shape that cut across the road, because that used to be the Lac La Ronge Indian Band post-secondary building, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if the treed area between the hospital and the post office is available, I would lean closer to that if that is the second option or the second recommendation being put forward, for a couple of reasons. I believe that the clientele that are accessing these services will need a health center close by in some way, shape, or form. The downtown core is not a long walk away. I mean, even intoxicated or not, even with some mobility issues, I know that might be a 3 to 5 minute walk, potentially 15, which I don't think is too far out of the way. The second, like the original recommendation that I put forward, I did drive by there today and see that there is quite a bit of snow and whatnot still left over, and I think by the time it was dry enough to even be usable, I think we're getting into colder temperatures.
Finlayson.
Yeah, at the end of Finlayson.
Very
So
swampy.
yeah, and I did see that. I thought it would dry up a lot quicker and would be a lot more usable, but I do agree with the administrator recommendation that would be a lot harder to make usable in short order without a ton of intervention. So I am going to lean towards the treed area between the hospital and post office. And I mean, furthermore, to some of the recommendations, I do think we need to have, we have the garbage disposal already part of our initial request here, right? That we put in the porta potties and the garbage disposal.
Yeah, what we're basically looking at is if we deviate from the recommendation as a whole, is one, determine what site you would like to use, and then two, what level of service. So if it's waste management and porta potty service, that would be sufficient in the motion.
Mm-hmm.
For example, the site that you're referring to, we probably have to put those things around here,
They would be close to the road.
Closer.
because
Yeah.
just because of it's a undulated land, and
Right.
we'd have to have access for the truck that would be cleaning it out and stuff.
So that right where your cursor is right now is pretty flat, is it not?
Part of it is, yes.
That is like a snow dump area.
Okay.
and likely that's where a porta potty and garbages would go.
Up along that fence line,
And
kind
it
of
would
idea.
be terribly difficult to take a skid steer in there and flatten out an area to put those things.
We might wanna try and find something to secure it to, so the porta potty doesn't get
You'd have
moved or.
And I do know that that might make it easier for public health nurses to also do a safe needle exchange program, which would be a harm reduction method because it's walking across their parking lot. I think that's something that would be beneficial rather than having to, you know, take a van, go downtown. And that which brings me to another question is I know that recently we've seen some unsafely disposed of sharps in our community. Is that something that the fire department would have to coordinate with public health to potentially look at a safe needle drop off?
That is something that I can look into,
Okay.
for that location. Just another thing too, I see on this report, it says 2 fire pits to be installed, if this is the location. I
We
think
wouldn't
it's-
do that in that location because it's too treed, I think.
Would it be
There-
better though to put it in a fire pit in the treed location?
They've been in that
Start it.
location before, and ideally if we're gonna have them set up there, I'd like to maybe just have a proper pit installed.
I think that'd be
in a
safer
safe
than putting
location
it on the ground.
Yeah, if we could find a clearing that was adequate, then we could do one
Can we
somewhere.
go back to that?
Yeah, and we could even look at possibly, again, maybe towards the clearing, or if there's another clearing somewhere on the edge. Or if there's a clearing somewhere in the middle. I haven't walked the whole area to identify it, but if the direction was to find a suitable location for one, we would take that.
If-
There are some open areas in the middle of
Seeing
the
as this does address a lot of the tri-community issue of homelessness, and if there is some inland wildfire mitigation measures that can be taken through the fire board, maybe we can have that discussion at our next fire services meeting. If you can identify that spot that there might need to be some cleanup, and if there is any kind of budgetary issue with that, to bring that up to the board. And we can discuss whether or not we want to expand that project to potentially bring that in, because I know that we've hired some summer students that can maybe help out in that regard, right?
Certainly, yep, we can bring that to them.
Further to that, Jordan, to administration, do we wanna ask our neighbors if they wanna assist in this?
That would be it was gonna be part of a follow-up question, is whatever plan you kind of endorse, if you wish to approach them politically for a contribution.
I would like to see a rough budget. Like, I don't need it to be exact, but I mean,
It's gonna
obviously
be 10,000-ish, because the porta potty itself is 8,000.
that's the servicing of like emptying it and all of that. Okay.
It's basically 400 a week to empty. Like if you do it twice a week, which is what we assume
We're assuming 2 pump outs.
reasonable would
The church
estimate would be.
$200 to pump a porta potty out?
Yes. And it's gonna be in rough shape, so it's gonna be
Is that through
$200.
is that through our current tender process
Yes.
of who we have? Okay.
Because we do have other porta potties we administer in the parks, different
Right.
parks.
Yeah.
Now we would move one here, but we'd have to service it more often, obviously, because it would be well used, and it would be just one as opposed to 3 or however many.
I think typically a pump out for a porta potty is more like $40 to $50.
They're charging us an hourly rate this year based on the past experience they've had with our porta potties in parks.
Okay, so we almost made it on the table, but it sounds like we've gone past a consensus of in or out. It sounds like we were kind of more agreeing on the site that's next to between the post office and the health center. My position on this whole thing was, and I think I brought it out at the last meeting, was I was always concerned about, now it's 2 tents, and it could be, as soon as you get permission, then you could end up with 10, so I think an alternate site is, I think, the best decision we can make. And now we just gotta make sure we make the site, maybe do a little bush clearing, maybe just clear a little bit, make it more fire safe. Also so you can see in there a little bit better. The porta potties that we talked about, and I'm not sure if you can, any other services that we feel that we need to provide.
The only other service that would be required at that site would be garbage.
Yeah, the garbage pickup.
which we're assuming two
Yeah.
garbage cans would be sufficient, and
Yes.
just include that in the public
You
works rounds.
you can't say, well, you're too messy if you don't provide something, so.
And I do think Councilor McPhail did mention a Sharps disposal in that area for it, cause they did have one out that other.
Yeah,
It was just across the street there. Yeah.
and a fire pit, so like, totally you're looking at maybe $9,000.
So before we even do that now that we have a bit of an idea of the direction this table wants to go, can we ask administration to put that together and approach Orange and Lac Orange Indian Band and ask if they would like to have any input in it and if they'd like to contribute or help with the cause?
Yeah, we can put in a request, under the mayor's signature.
Do we need official motion on that, or?
We would need a motion to approve, the preferred site. Part of this, of course, will, what we would like to see is a motion to direct administration to develop a parks bylaw, that'd be one step. As well as designate a site for the interim where we would allow this. The reason for that was, as you remember how this started, there was proliferation into other municipal lands. And if we're going to tell them you can't be here, we wanted to know where we could tell them to go. And so that would solve that issue. And then the other items would be a budget approval of $9,000 approximately to deal with this and to approach our partners for contributions to that. So you could roll those multiple items into one motion.
I think realistically, we're not gonna get the budget approval, the consultation, and all the work necessary before our next meeting.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how council wants to approach this. If you want to basically approve a plan and the funding, and then approach the partners and hope they will contribute, or is this plan contingent upon them contributing? Because you can designate the space without expending any funds. We don't have to put in a porta potty or anything else. So if you wish for that level of service to be contingent upon the partners being involved, we can do it that way, or you can approve it regardless and just approach them for a contract.
I think designate the space first and then talk with the partners. Maybe they have some other ideas.
I mean, and that's the thing is like, if we're at the point now where we're comfortable regardless of whether or not the partners are going in, the contributions of other partners when we work out a budget on what we would like to see down that area, I think there needs to be a dignified place to be. And I think if we can see some land development in the area of flattening some areas or, you know, putting in some sort of temporary infrastructure into the area, I think that this is something that I don't think will be solved this year nor next. If I'm being honest with council, I don't see a long-term solution coming up anytime soon. And I think that we need to settle in and, you know, as we've said, talk about the long-term solution and working towards that. But in the meantime, I think we need to be as dignified as possible for those that are experiencing homelessness in our community. So I'll make the motion to direct administration to develop the parks bylaw. Furthermore, that administration work with the tri-community leadership and administrative teams to create a budget for a site in the downtown core for a temporary homeless solution, and furthermore that we designate lot 13. Is that what you need?
Treat area.
I'll second that motion.
We'll clarify.
You'll
the
clarify
exact
that, you
designation,
know
but
which
yes.
one I'm referring to.
Yeah.
And if there is a seconder to the motion, I will ask that it be recorded.
I'll second it.
I'll second that
Okay,
motion.
we'll have a recorded vote. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Okay, aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, no. Okay. Councillor Medrick, as opposed to the motion? Motion's carried.
I'll make a motion to, discretionary use permit, is that something, that was the last item that you needed, or 9.6? Robbie? That was that was the additional, right?
That was the
Right?
mail,
Yeah. I was about to make a motion to go in camera, but I will withhold.
Like you trying to do, David. Sorry for not having the agenda, but it's for the unique nails by Margie. But since after the initial discretionary use reviewed by council, she had to change her name to Unique Nails by Margie, but everything else is still the same. We're on one-way lot, please. Didn't receive any concerns or any letters from the town office of the application for home-based business, and I recommend approving motion.
I so move.
I will second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
carried.
I'll make a motion to enter in the camera.
Okay, seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay,
Aye.
now in camera.